Clerk, please take the poll.
Gary Summerfield.
Here.
Mark Satterley.
Here.
Rick Quinn.
Here.
Mike Burns. Jim Gozy.
Here.
Bob McAfee.
Here.
LaDonna Allen.
Here.
Roger Smith.
Here.
Would everyone rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance and the Sorry, heard the groans. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you pray for me? Gracious God, as we come to you this day to begin another session of the Carl Junction Board of Aldermen, we ask that you impart upon us your wisdom and guidance so that we may promote justice, assist those in need, and provide for the overall well-being of the citizens of Carl Junction. We ask this in your Son's most holy name. Amen.
First of all, we need to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'm going to approve the agenda. That's right. I'll second that.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Roger Spencer, that we approve the agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand. 8 in favor, none opposed. Next, consent agenda, which is the minutes from the previous meeting and any expenditures. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Roger, second by Satterley. I think got it in. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 8 in favor, none opposed. Consent agenda is approved. Now, public forum. Do we have anybody that wants to address the council in public forum? If so, Steve has a nice little disclaimer he will need to read.
It's over here on this side somewhere.
Yeah, if you'd like to speak, come to the podium, Steve will give some directions.
Let me read this real quick and then you can get started.
Okay.
All persons wishing to speak to the mayor and the Board of Aldermen during the public comment portion of the meeting should come forward one at a time, stand at the podium, and state your name and address and the subject matter you wish to comment upon. All comments should be directed to the mayor in a civil manner. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless the mayor or Board of Aldermen grants additional time. It is the mayor's responsibility to make certain these rules are followed and to maintain order and decorum. If you have a question, the mayor and Board of Aldermen may, of course, provide an immediate response. However, the mayor and the Board of Aldermen may also provide no response or response at a later time as they deem appropriate.
Okay, my name is Karen Warden, and I live in the Country Club Estates, which, if I'm correct, that tonight is addressing some of the property that is in Country Club Estates. I live at 510 Cherry Lane, so that property is directly across from me. And I believe that the Four State Builder Association bought that property, and they were seeking to rezone that into a residential 2, to where they were going to put duplexes into it. And he's bought the property, so I know that he's going to build. My main concern is the traffic. Where's this development going to enter into and out of? I mean, where's the traffic going to come from? Because already we have quite a bit of traffic at Fur Road and Lone Elm. That little intersection is a 4-way stop, and the cars are backed up quite a bit at both in between 7:30 and 8, and then also at 5 o'clock. So I just wondered if there's any way that it could not go down Lone Elm. And that way we would not have an increase in traffic. I don't know how many duplexes the man is planning on putting up. I looked up the property when it first went up for sale, and I know that it was valued quite high. So I'm expecting that he's going to put quite a few duplexes in.
Where's this?
If I were, like, if you take Lone Elm and follow it all the way down before it curves onto,
Okay.
is that Cherry? that curves
Yeah,
onto
it curves onto Cherry, runs 510 Cherry
and
Lane.
just goes straight. If I'm right in this, which we've talked about this, when it went to P&Z, they didn't have a quorum to actually make a vote on it after for a recommendation.
Pardon?
That when this went before planning and zoning,
Mhm.
they did not have a quorum to make a vote as far as a recommendation. So it's my understanding that they're going to meet again, what, on the 11th or?
Yeah, Monday, the 11th.
Okay, so at our next meeting, the second Tuesday
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
or the third Tuesday of this month, we will actually hear this again. We will get their recommendation and we will have a public hearing then. So if you, any of your neighbors, anybody
Mhm.
would like to come back, because it all got postponed because they didn't have enough to vote on it, the planning and zoning.
Okay. Are
But
they going to have like a drawing of what the development is gonna look like and where's the entrance? Because my biggest fear is that this entrance is gonna be directly across from me. And I know this sounds selfish, my quiet little corner is no longer going to be a quiet, you're talking lights and
Right.
traffic and noise and all sorts of stuff.
yeah, I
And
would,
so-
they will have is there a drawing on file now, Steve, that the public can come in and view right now?
Yes, I've got one in my office that they could come.
Yeah.
If they want to come look at it, or it will be available at planning and zoning again on Monday, and it'll also be available at Alderman's next meeting.
Is it online or anything?
It's not online, but you can come in.
It's great, it's a great big thing.
It's a great,
Is it?
okay.
Okay, if you want to come in during regular business hours,
Yes.
I'm sure he can, or the 11th, you can come back. Is it
Uh-huh.
6 o'clock that it starts?
7.
7 o'clock next Monday.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but yeah, I appreciate your concern, so if you've got other neighbors that maybe didn't make it to the other hearing. if they-
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public forum?
One more.
We actually have public forum. Can you give your name and address?
My name is Gary Barker. Address is 119 Briarwood Drive. We moved into the neighborhood in August 2020. I would say we love it. The excessive speed in that area is the reason I'm here this evening. I've called the authorities on 4 occasions now. As of most recent, our mailbox was taken out a couple weeks ago, and it was 2 p.m., plain as day. My neighbor got it on video. It was every bit of 40 plus. 20 minutes later, there was a woman pushing a stroller, in that same spot. So, I just want to know what are the steps that we can take to be proactive rather than reactive. I've had families come talk to me as I'm redigging my mailbox hole and put it back in. Same concerns. Our kids can't ride their bikes down this road. And we're closer to the Joplin exit near the trail entrance. They round that corner and they're going well over 30 miles an hour. When they're coming in the neighborhood, same deal. And it's an extreme concern as a parent of 3. And I just want to know, is it speed bumps? What is something that we can do to mitigate this risk, in my opinion, which is a risk?
Have you, the police or anything, have they come out and set up any kind of?
I've called 4 times, 2 for the same vehicle. They said every time they come out, address it, and I believe they did. When my mailbox was struck, they came out, we ended up finding the vehicle that did it, but unfortunately, the driver didn't admit to it. I think there's multiple drivers for that vehicle, so nothing came of it. And, putting in a mailbox is a small fee. That's not why I'm here, and that's not why I called the authorities in the first place.
Right.
It's just, I thought there's a lot more at risk with, the pedestrian traffic, the bicycles, the joggers, the walkers.
How far from the trail head there are you guys?
Say it again?
How far from the trail entrance are you, the walking trail?
About a quarter mile. We're probably 7, 8 houses up on the north side. So, I have a couple of good ideas where I think a speed bump or something would be beneficial, or 2, just because it's a, well-traveled road, but when our kids play in the driveway, we're getting to the point now where we park a car, sideways in the driveway, just as
Well,
an extra safety barrier. I mean, even playing in the front yard, about a month ago, we had a car going slow, but staring at her cell phone. 2 tires came up into my yard. And, because we're right there in the corner as you straighten out to leave the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's it.
unfortunately, I don't know that, I do know that some of the things that you mentioned, like the engineers are completely opposed to as traffic control, but I think maybe we need to get a hold of the chief maybe and see if they can.
We'll do a couple of things. We'll get an officer to, do you know what time of day these happen? Or is it?
The police advise me to come here and do this.
Right, so we'll direct them to get, park an officer out there, and we've also got a speed trailer out there that will park, and which gives us a history, it records all of that, so that's where we'll start with. And hopefully that same vehicle that seems to be the problem, we'll get hold of.
I mean, I would really say, and I've pointed out, one vehicle to law enforcement a couple times, but it's just a consistency of vehicles. It's not just one. And, it could be a teenager, it could be an adult, it could be a construction worker, just getting out of there, coming in there. It's a main travel road. And I understand that, the speed bump, be an issue with snow plows and everything else, I guess. But, I don't want to go to a parking lot, teach my daughter how to ride a bicycle. I'd rather do it right on the road without having to,
Well, hopefully if we take some of those steps, a lot of times just seeing a police presence or the fact speed trailer out there will kind of raise awareness. Maybe you even get some parents saying, hey, did you see that's there? And their teenagers are kind of waking up. But if it turns out that people are actually going the speed limit and it's a hazardous situation, then maybe we, look at some other issues with the speed limits or whatever. So, but Steve will get a hold of our chief tomorrow and we'll get somebody out to, hopefully. But definitely report it anytime you have an instance like that, so it's on record.
and I'll call the police department,
Yeah.
not to my wife, and tell them, no neighbor, but
Well, sometimes that's what, you've got to have things documented.
absolutely.
So, all right, I appreciate it. If there's anything else we can do. just-
And that's towards the job street exit, right, as far as where you look at put that
Up in that area.
in.
Okay,
All right, thank you for
we
your time.
will do that. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments other than what we're planning on taking approach?
What's the speed on it? Is it 30?
30.
You wouldn't think that would be fast enough to be a safety issue, but if you're not paying attention.
I
guess
have to agree with him. It is a dangerous little section of the road. We live in where I work ourselves and we travel up and down that a lot too. And there are a lot of kids that are in the neighborhood. And it seems that the street is, I'm sure it's regulations, but it's somewhat narrow and there are a lot of cars that park on the street, which causes a little extra trouble too. We'll look into it.
It's also dangerous. A lot of people are riding bikes to the trail and up and down.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering how close it was to the trail. We get,
Yeah, and, we kind of got to the point now where we'll just drive down the trail, even though we're 7 or so houses up, just because it's unnecessary risk in our opinion. That's kind of where we're at.
anyone else for public forum? Last call for public forum. All right, moving on. Next item is approval of delinquent tax list for collection. Does the city clerk or administrator have any comment? If not,
This is our annual that we bring in from you so that we can start sending out delinquent notices for people that have not paid their either personal property or real estate taxes.
I'll make a motion to approve the list of delinquent taxes.
I'll second.
motion by Mike Burns, second by Roger Spencer to approve the list of delinquent taxes for collection. All in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. The list is approved for collection. Next on the agenda, approval of bids for aluminum bleachers. I know you got the bid summary in your packet. Steve, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope, they actually came in better than what I anticipated. You know, I was thinking it'd be around 10 grand for it, so at $6,800 from Built Right, I thought that's probably not too bad for the way pricing has went lately.
And if I remember correctly, these are like a lower profile kind of
Yes,
bleacher
they
that's
are.
not going to extend so far.
Yeah, they'll be the lower profile, so we can put them here in the gym so that they don't stick out as far into the courts.
Be a little safer.
How many of them are you talking about?
4,
And this is for all 4?
yes.
I'll make a motion, we go with it.
With which company are you, with his recommendation for Built Right?
Yes.
Got a motion that we approve bid by Built Right for the aluminum bleachers. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Gary. Is that you? That we go with the Built Right bid for the aluminum bleachers for the gymnasium. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Approved 8-0. All right, everybody, get ready because we've saved every ordinance for the year for tonight. Thank you, Mark Howard. And ordinance approving a contract with the Joplin Family Y for the pool management.
Will we put this on first reading by title only?
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, put it on first reading by title only, second by Roger Spencer. Would the clerk please read?
An ordinance approving the pool management contract between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and the Joplin Family Y Incorporated to maintain and operate the Carl Junction pool, providing the terms and conditions thereof, and authorizing the mayor to execute said contract for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
I'm sure you all noticed there was a change in the amount of the contract. Sometimes it's good to question things. Steve, you talked with the director there.
I did. I talked with Cookie Estrada. He's the director for the Y. He apologized profusely for the last one that was in front of you, that it had got past him and he did not have a chance to go over it before we looked at it. So you'll notice that the amount is at $20,400 for the year. You'll also see that there is kind of a breakdown of last year's expenses and this year's anticipated one. So
I would say that it's not as much as we had originally predicted. I mean, it's more than we had originally predicted at 18,000. But looking at the cost associated with some of the materials that they're going to be needing, some of the chemicals, as well as, there's obviously a rise in labor costs right now. That's a lot more acceptable.
yeah, in the breakdown, you'll see labor cost and materials is what it is. And it's cost of chlorine. What I got for 16 pails of chlorine was $5,500. We get it from the exact same place, cheapest that we could find. We do have an option of changing it over to liquid instead of the 3-inch tablets, which is a good idea. It's less handling. The fact that they don't have to touch that liquid at all. People come in, fill the tank. None of the employees have to touch it. And down the road, we need to look at that at some time, we probably need to look at that for our wells too, instead of using gas. Gas is extremely dangerous. Our guys are used to working with it though, so they're experienced. I thought we could probably get a liquid system in down at the pool before the start of the season. Not now. We don't. A month ago, we probably could have got it in, but it's too close now to be. We'll have to use that.
But that,
But now that we're thinking about this, this is something that we can certainly plan for next year.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we have to keep in mind.
Do we look at, we talked about last time, maybe switching it to saltwater?
Yeah, that's not a efficient way of doing municipal pools. It's just too much water, too much. To be able to put in a saltwater system for a big pool like that, you also have to have a chlorine system, so you end up with two of them. Because a saltwater pool will not keep up with the bather load the way that chlorine does, so you have to have a chlorine. Not working. And the voting system is not working, so Elena will have to call the roll.
oh. All right, well, is there any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion for this on second reading.
I move that we put this motion on the second reading
By
by title only.
Motion by Mark Satterley, who seconded it?
Second.
Mr. Gosey.
Mr. Gosey. All those, second reading, sorry, I gotta hit myself.
An ordinance approving a pool management contract between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri and the Joplin Family Y Incorporated to maintain and operate the Carl Junction Pool, providing the terms and conditions thereof, and authorizing the mayor to execute said contract for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Any other discussion?
Make a motion, we move this forward.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Mark Satterley to put this on final passage. It's a hand vote to go to roll call vote. All those in favor? 8-0. Would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Gary Stubblefield,
Yes.
Mark Satterley,
Yes.
Rick Flynn,
Yes.
Mike Burns,
Yes.
Jim Gosey,
Yes.
Bob McAfee,
Yes.
LaDonna Allen,
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. Would the clerk publish the ordinance?
22-05.
All right, next on the agenda, an ordinance approving the 2023 fiscal year budget.
I'll make a motion to put this on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Rick Flynn,
Yes.
to put this on first reading by title only.
An ordinance adopting the 2023 fiscal year budget.
Any discussion? Has everybody had a chance to look over it? There were a couple of changes since it was originally presented, one of them being a full contract. We have to make some investments there. Some salary and for the PD, because there was one position that wasn't included that could likely be filled during this budget cycle. Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to put this on second reading by title only.
I move we put it on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Mark Satterley to put this on second reading by title only.
An ordinance adopting the 2023 fiscal year budget.
Any other discussion?
Move to put it on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, put this on final passage, second by Roger Spencer, a hand vote to go forward. All in favor? 8-0. Would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Bob McAfee,
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield,
Yes.
Rick Flynn,
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
LaDonna Allen,
Yes.
Mike Burns,
Yes.
Mark Satterley,
Yes.
Jim Gosey.
Yes.
The ordinance approved 8-0. Would the clerk please read the ordinance number,
2206.
which makes sense because we're gonna have to roll call on 7 ordinances. An ordinance is, okay, next on the agenda, an ordinance as establishing salaries for city employees effective 5/1/22.
I'll make a motion to put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Roger Spencer to put this ordinance on first reading by title only. Would the clerk please read the title?
An ordinance establishing salaries for city employees effective May 1st, 2022.
You guys should have got the list in the packet with all of the city employees and the price salary range. Does anyone have any questions or comments, or we would entertain a motion to put it on second reading?
I'll make a motion, put this on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Gary, to put this ordinance on second reading by title only. Would the clerk read the title?
An ordinance establishing salaries for city employees effective May 1st, 2022.
Any other discussion?
Move we put it on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, Mark Satterley, I believe, got the second in. To put this on final passage, it's a hand vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. If nothing, would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Jim Gozi,
Yes.
Mark Satterley,
Yes.
Mike Burns.
Yes.
Ladonna Allen.
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Rick Flynn.
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield.
Yes.
Bob McAfee.
Yes.
Ordinance passes 8-0. And that would be ordinance number
2207.
All right, an ordinance appointing officers to the city for the ensuing year.
I'll make a motion, put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Mark Satterley to put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
An ordinance appointing city officers to the city of Carl Junction to serve the ensuing year until new officers are duly appointed.
Any discussion?
Move we put it on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Mark Satterley to put this ordinance on second reading by title only. Would the clerk read the title?
An ordinance appointing city officers to the city of Carl Junction to serve the ensuing year until new officers are duly appointed.
Make motion, we put it on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Rick Spencer, second by Gary Stubblefield to put this on final passage. This is a hand vote to move forward. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Anything, would the clerk please take the vote?
Bob McAfee.
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield.
Yes.
Rick Flynn.
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Ladonna Allen.
Yes.
Mike Burns.
Yes.
Mark Satterley.
Yes.
Jim Gozi.
Yes.
And that would be,
2208.
thank you. Next, an ordinance amending chapter 705, water rates. Do we have a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Who was the motion?
Rick.
Rick, okay, motion by Rick Flynn, second by Mark Satterley. Would the clerk please read the title?
An ordinance amending Title 7 Utilities, Chapter 705 Water, Article 3 Use Charge System by amending Section 705.330 Actual Use Rate Structure to set water rates to be effective May 1st, 2022. So the in-town users shall pay $14.39 for the first 1,000 gallons and $4.34 for 1,000 gallons thereafter. And commercial water customers and out-of-town users shall pay in accordance with the existing rate structure set forth in Section 705.330.
Aren't you glad that was just the title? Sorry. Okay, anyone have any discussion on this? Any questions for the city administrator on how we determine rates? Anything else? Yes.
How much does this go up?
When?
How much
How
does this go up?
It goes up 75 cents on the second 1,000 gallons and thereafter.
So the first part.
The first part, it does not touch at all. It's the exact same rate of $14.39.
And the additional 1,000-gallon charge will actually go to R&R, is that right?
This goes directly to the water account R&R, which is for line replacement, new line, upgrading, that type of thing, strictly for the lines. And pumps.
And that is what Kurt has done.
Yep.
evaluation kind of tell us long term.
This allows us to chisel away at that $7.6 million worth of water infrastructure improvements and upgrades that we need to do.
Any other questions before we put this on second reading?
Make a motion, we put it on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Gary Stubblefield. Put this on second reading by title only. Would the clerk read the title?
An ordinance amending Title VII Utilities, Chapter 705 Water, Article 3, Use and Charge System by amending Section 705.330 Actual Use Rate Structure to set water rates to be effective May 1st, 2022, so that in-town users shall pay $14.39 for the first 1,000 gallons and $4.34 per 1,000 gallons thereafter, and commercial water customers and out-of-town users shall pay in accordance with the existing rate structure set forth in Section 705.330.
Any other discussion?
It says that there's no change to the rate to that the out-of-town users, because they're based on a percentage of the in-town users, correct?
Yes.
So their rate
Their
is
rates will
being
go up
increased as
also,
well.
yeah.
Okay. It just kind of sounds like there's no rate increase for out-of-town, but it means that it's a percentage of the.
Right.
It goes up proportionally.
Now, once we pass this, then you go to airport driving the outside users, right? To get
No, that's on the sewer.
That's in the sewer,
That's on the sewer.
not
Yes.
water. Okay,
And we do not
They're
have
not
that
on.
back from the engineers yet for the sewer.
on the
rates.
sewer, okay, sorry. Okay, if there's no more questions, we have a motion to put it on final passage.
Second reading.
That was just,
No, it's a second.
That was
Was
second
that
reading.
second?
I'll make a motion for this on final passage.
Second.
motion by Mike Burns, second by Mark Scatterly to put this on final passage. Hand vote, all in favor, please raise your right hand. All in, all right. Would the clerk please take the vote?
Jim Josie,
Yes.
Mark Stadley,
Yes.
Mike Burns.
Yes.
LaDonna Allen,
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Rick Flynn,
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield,
Yes.
Bob McAfee.
Yes.
The ordinance is approved 8-0. That would be ordinance number,
2209.
thank you. Next, an ordinance approving a letter of agreement with KPM for auditing services. Can I have a motion to put this on?
I'll make a motion for this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Mike Burns, second by Rick Flynn to put this on first reading by title only. Would the clerk read the title?
An ordinance approving a letter agreement by and between KPN CPAs and advisors and the city of Carl Junction, Missouri to provide professional auditing services to the city of Carl Junction, Missouri for the year ending April 30th, 2022, 2023, and 2024 for the sum of $25,000 for 2022, $26,000 for 2023, and $27,000 for 2024, and as otherwise provided by the terms and conditions of the letter agreement, and authorizing the mayor to execute said letter agreement for and on behalf of the city of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Okay, I know we'll probably have a little discussion needed on this one. So Steve, would you or Elaine like to explain why we have this?
Our past auditors, Taylor Green and Associates out of Neosho, sent us a letter resigning from that. This was the end of their term of their contract. So we went out for an RFQ for auditors, and we got 0 response back. So Elena put a blurb out to the other city clerks through the City Clerks Association. Overwhelmingly, KPM was recommended by city clerks pretty much across the state. They do a lot. Then when she was talking to them, they said they were not adding any new clients unless they had a recommendation from another city. And so we got lucky. And they're taking us on for this first 3 years. It does also have a 3-year extension in it that if we want to.
I have a question. The price goes up every year. my assumption is, and I'm not an auditor, but wouldn't it get easier for them to audit us the more familiar they are with us?
You would think so, yes.
I mean, that's the best they can do, or I guess if they're the only ones. We don't really
Yeah,
know.
it's, you know, if we have to have an audit done, and it has to be into the state, by October, if I remember right. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So we're actually pushing the limits for them to be able to get in and get the audit done so they will be a little bit rushed this year. But, yeah, it should be easier year to year.
Are they just anticipating that the city will experience growth, and so the amount of money that they are auditing gets bigger, and the amount of expenditures and transactions? And
Well, you can figure that we're gonna grow, transactions are gonna grow. They're gonna have increased costs also, you know, paying their people more, that type of thing, so.
Also, I think it may be pretty standard because in putting this ordinance together, our previous ordinance with Taylor Green, that contract went up each year also. It did not stay the same.
What was that last year? You remember?
This year, we paid $20,000, I believe, for the audit.
There is a discrepancy in the title of the ordinance and the wording of the ordinance as far as the price for the second year.
The section 1 down
25,000.
Yeah, in section 1, it says that 2022
So you need to amend that, 25, 26,000, and 27,000.
so do we need to,
Amend the ordinance first and vote on that, and then we can move on and do the other reading, and it would be as amended.
I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to say 25,000 for 2022, 26,000 for 2023, and 27,000 for 2024.
Second.
Section 1.
motion by Mike Burns, second by Rick Flynn, to amend the ordinance to show the appropriate amounts in the title of the ordinance?
And I'll make a motion to put this ordinance on second reading, put this ordinance as amended on second reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, can we do a vote on both of these at the same
Oh,
time?
sorry.
Vote on both in what?
We're going to have to amend the ordinance. Do we need to do a vote on just that motion and then do a second reading on the motion as amended? Or the ordinance? Okay, first we need to hold a vote on the motion to amend the ordinance to reflect the corrected amounts. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 8-0. Now, would you like to put that on?
Sure, I'll make a motion to put this ordinance as amended on a second reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mike Burns, second by Roger Spencer to put the ordinance on second reading by title only as amended.
An ordinance approving a letter agreement by and between KPM CPAs and Advisors and the City of Carl Junction, Missouri to provide professional auditing services to the City of Carl Junction, Missouri for the year ending April 30th, 2022, 2023, and 2024 for the sum of $25,000 for 2022, $26,000 for 2023, and $27,000 for 2024, and is otherwise provided by the terms and conditions of the letter agreement and authorizing the mayor to execute said letter agreement for and on behalf of the City of Carl Junction, Missouri.
Okay, with that being said, is there any more discussion, or can I get a motion to put it on final passage?
I move to put it on final passage as amended.
I'll second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Mike Burns to put this on final passage. This is a hand vote to move forward. All in favor, please raise your right hand. 8-0 in favor. Would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Bob McAfee,
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield,
Yes.
Rick Flynn,
Yes.
Roger Spencer,
Yes.
Ladonna Allen,
Yes.
Mike Burns,
Yes.
Mark Satterlee,
Yes.
Jim Goods.
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is approved, and that is ordinance number
2210.
2210. Next on the agenda, an ordinance approving a contract with Empire Electric for street lighting. Can I have a motion, please, to put this on first reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mark Satterley, second by Rick Quinn to put this ordinance on first reading by title only. Would the clerk please read the title?
An ordinance authorizing and providing a contract between the city of Carl Junction, Missouri, hereinafter sometimes called the city, and the Empire District Electric Company, hereinafter sometimes called the company, its successors or assigns for electric service and equipment to light the city's streets, alleys, and public ways, electric service for light and power for the city's parks and other properties and public places for a term of years, and specifying the prices to be paid for such lighting and power service, and the terms and conditions of such contract, and in consideration of company's covenants and obligations contained herein, and company's acceptance of the terms and conditions contained herein, including but not limited to company's agreement to payment by the company of the license and occupation tax imposed upon company by ordinance number 738 of the city, as full payment by the city other than the license and occupation tax imposed upon the company by ordinance number 738 of the city, or any amendment thereof, for the establishment, operation, and maintenance of the company's facilities within the city, except providing further that nothing herein shall prohibit the city from lawfully collecting motor vehicle license fees and any ad valorem tax on the company's real estate and personal property.
And that wasn't.
And you got 2 more times to do.
We do have some discussion on this. Steve, would you please take over some discussion on this real quick?
Actually, I'm gonna turn it over to Jordan Bollinger from Empire Liberty. She's our, our local rep.
Your
Liaison, there we go. Yeah, so, the last time we did this was 10 years ago, and we update them periodically.
So what's in front of you is the municipal electric service agreement, which is between us and the city to provide the street lighting. As he alluded to, it is a 10-year contract. So every 10 years, we're gonna come before you and update this. The only thing that has changed in the agreement from the previous 10 years is going to be the amount of infrastructure that we have put in. So you'll see there are a couple of dollars there, and they're going to show what our total investment is within the city. And again, that's going to be street lighting, streets, alleys, public ways, parks, that sort of thing. So what this does is it allows the city to receive the lighting charges through our municipal lighting tariff as opposed to a private lighting tariff, which saves money. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
This is obviously an increase in the dollar amounts, because 10 years ago, we didn't have near as many streetlights. We've added streetlights, we've added streets, so those charges are gonna go up, of course, the more that we add. We do, of course, limit our street lighting to intersections only, and because they are not security lighting, they are traffic control lighting. So I know people complain to us quite a bit about in between the block, that type of thing, but they are for lighting that intersection for traffic safety. They're not a security light.
And I'll just point out one more thing. Throughout the 10 years, it seems like 10 years is a very long span before we come back to you. But in between there, anytime that there's any kind of, say a light gets called in from a resident, a street light, and we go out there and say it's an old mercury vapor. So we're going to upgrade that to an LED because we no longer have those parts. We provide the city with what we call a service agreement, SA-22, and it has to be signed off on. So there's updates anytime that we make any changes. We're not going to install new lighting without, the city's approval. But I just wanted to make sure that you do know that there are agreements and contracts that are passed between us quite often throughout that 10-year period.
So when you come out and if you do upgrade a light, is there a fee for upgrading?
So all of them are going to be different. For example, if we change out a mercury vapor, typically the city's bill is going to go down. If we come out and it's a newer high pressure sodium, every situation is going to be completely different. But if we upgrade that to an LED, then there might be a minor increase. And when I say increase and decrease, we're talking like $1, and that's going to be on a monthly basis.
How many streetlights do we have? Let me just ballpark. No, the point I'm getting around to, why don't we just all update them all? If it's only gonna cost us $1 for each.
That's definitely something that we can look into, and if we want to, if that's something that you guys as a collective body say, let's move forward in doing that, then that's something that we can put on our radar and start doing.
Of course.
The issue right now that I'm sure you're all aware of in whatever business it is that you're in is equipment. So getting enough LEDs to probably change out everything, it is unlikely. But it's definitely something that, that Steve and I can talk through and we can work through doing. If there are certain areas that you would like us to concentrate on, we can do that as well and go in and upgrade, especially if they're mercury vapor, because it is our goal to get all mercury vapors off our system. That's going to be the old yellow, probably doesn't really provide much security. So those are very ideal. We want those off of our system. The high pressure sodiums, we can get parts for them. They're still an efficient light, so we don't like to touch those unless we absolutely have to.
When you,
But I would say, and I'm not sure,
No, I
the
understand
only
that.
number I have off the top of my head is in the city of Joplin, for example, we have over 5,500 streetlights throughout the city of Joplin. That's kind of the best. I'm not sure, but I can get you that number.
Okay.
when you say that, when you're talking about the cost or the savings, is there a cost for the actual hardware though? Does the hardware cost, when you talk about saving or costing, is that the actual energy used that we're saving or costing?
So there's two parts that go into your street lighting bill. One of them is going to be, as you alluded to, the energy charge. So LED is going to be more efficient than mercury vapor, so we're going to see the energy charge go down. However, the mercury vapor light that we installed 20 plus years ago, taking that $70 fixture off and putting up a $319 fixture,
Right.
that's going to be more. But
So we'd have that initial cost.
But
and
the
more
efficiency of the LED actually helps to make it cheaper. So the energy cost saves so much that even though we are putting a brand new fixture up and there's a cost difference there, it actually saves a little bit in most cases. That's with the mercury vapor. So there's two parts to it.
Do you know the life expectancy on the newer LED?
We'd like to say 10 years. I will say that we are definitely seeing that we aren't having to touch those as often, so they're proving to do what they're supposed to do.
Are they brighter or better than, as far as the amount of lumens, I guess?
Yes. Yeah, and so and the way that they work also is just the aerial, the amount of light that's aerial and straight down. It's a lot of people like. Now I will also say we get people that don't like LEDs. I don't know, Steve, if we ran into that issue here, but in other cities, we'll go out and replace and put up an LED, and we'll get calls the next day that it's too bright, they want it, taken away. So we might be careful
They
how
can
quickly
put
we
LED
move there, but.
They can put an LED out there in my area, and I guarantee you, we wouldn't gripe.
Yeah, your area and ours.
I have a certain area on the south side of Joplin that many of them came together as the stargazing group and said that our LEDs took away their ability to stargaze. So there's all kinds of stuff.
But their house didn't get broke into, probably did
We'll
it?
see.
All right, well, that may be something that, we look at when we're planning the budget, upcoming budgets, and how it would be as far as cost efficiency and replacement. When we're looking at how many we're actually talking about having to change out.
And we can always run numbers prior to doing anything, so.
Pretty safe to assume it's not more than Joplin's.
Yeah. I think that's probably not, Does anybody else have any questions? I think we got some good information. I understand more, right? I think that is it. Steve, now this one's it has to be handled a little different.
Right, this one is a little bit different. This will be on public notice for the next 30 days. And then we will finalize it in the first meeting in May. So your appropriate action now would be just to table it for 30 days.
I move we table it for 30 days.
Second.
Motion by Rick Flynn, second by Roger Spencer to table this ordinance for 30 days. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is tabled. All right, we made it through the ordinances.
Marilyn,
Barely.
I think a fine job you did, and the more you did them, the better you got.
Hey, there you go. Tell all my fans. The one that's on, the one that's on YouTube.
Elena did all the heavy lifting.
That's true. All right, next, reports, the administration report. Has everybody had a chance to look over it? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns for the city administrator? Other than to get the tote board working.
Yeah, looks like I'll work on the tote board.
That's okay, I can't see it anyhow, so this one, about the vote. Steve, is there anything you would like to add to your report? If not, we will move on.
No, you good? Don't have any questions for me?
I do. On the American Rescue Plan, it says budget meeting. When are we gonna do that? Any idea? And then we'll meet you over what we're spending this on. I mean, I know it's kind of a ballpark, but.
We need to set that up probably for next week. We've got a pretty good list of it together now.
Yeah, when we get to budget stuff, we need to do one in 2 weeks also.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a couple meetings coming up. If that's
Okay.
So the old business of the sidewalks, am I reading this right? We're talking about project starting in October? Is that
No,
project
not
show?
until March of next year,
March of next year, 2023?
2023, yes. Contract award March of 2023, so work will start after that.
And this is to continue down now,
Yes. Takes it down to Dean.
right?
Any other questions for Steve? If not, any other building reports or any other reports that we have? What all do we have? Police department report was here. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look over it. Are there any questions, any comments on the police report? If not, we can move on. We have the building inspector report that was laying in front of you. Anything for the building inspector? Anything you want Steve to pass on to the building inspector? We good? All right.
Roofing's down.
Yeah, spring's coming.
Oh, give us a couple of months.
As you say.
The next storm comes through.
One good hailstorm and we'll be.
All right, any other reports that we have? Did we have anything from Jay? We didn't have anything in this.
It is my fault, you do not have a report from Jay, it was announced to me today.
Well, if nothing else, maybe you can forward that to us. And then
Yes,
we can ask
absolutely.
questions. All right. So department reports, committee reports. We'll just start down the line. Bob, public facilities. Do you have anything to report from public facilities?
Nothing to do with
Gary, do you have anything for seniors?
Tammy Lynch, our director for the senior center, wanted us to know that March was National Nutrition Month. That our little center raised $6,104. Pretty good show. Support from the community.
That is very good. That's very good. Anything else for the senior committee? Any comments on anything? If not, Rick, ordinances, codes, and nuisance.
Nothing at this time, man.
You were supposed to give a full dissertation on your
You
activities.
took too long on the ordinances.
All right, we won't read the code book. Human resources, Roger.
Nothing.
Nothing to report. All right, budget committee, we will need to meet, first of all, 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, when we have our second regular meeting. I would like to ask that we have chamber representatives, the board of directors, the president of the board, the executive director, someone come before us. We've got a contract that's coming up the 1st of May. And we have not sat down with them and discussed what they plan to do to meet the requirements of the contract. We need to discuss what they're willing to do, what we expect, and look at the dollar amount on the contract before it's renewed. So if we can do 6:30 maybe?
You better go 6 for that one.
6? Okay, if we can invite them.
Yep.
To have members of the board, the executive director, anyone that wishes to talk about it. We need to see what changes they've made, what changes they're planning on making, what services they can realistically provide. So it is going to be considered a budget committee meeting, but it, of course, is an open meeting. So I would encourage any and all to attend to, see before we renew the contract. Also, next week, do we want to try to do a meeting at some point, like say for the ARPA funding?
Yeah, next week, if you have an afternoon open, best afternoon for you guys to meet, then we can go over the ARPA stuff. Which one works best?
Is there a certain, Tuesdays, was Tuesday best for Bob, Rick, Jim? Somebody throw out a day, because I can do whatever.
Tuesday work?
Monday or Tuesday's fine with me.
And at, say, 3 o'clock?
Bob,
Fine, that's fine.
either day. Rick, does Tuesday work for you? Okay, Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So that is what, the
12th.
12th.
We'll get it posted.
I forgot what day this was, right? I hadn't sent it. Yay, budget. Okay, so 3 o'clock on the 12th. And that will be to discuss our vote once again. Anybody on the council that wants to sit in on, anybody in the public, it is an open meeting. Okay, does it for committees unless anybody has any other questions. Next up, unfinished business. Bob, do you have any unfinished business for the committee or the council?
No.
Gary?
Last time we mentioned maybe putting that speed card out and loan out. Do we know if that got done?
I do not know.
I don't either. We'd have to check with David. He's the one that does that, so.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Maybe you're talking too fast.
Anything else, Gary?
No, ma'am.
Rick, any unfinished?
No, ma'am.
Roger, any unfinished?
No.
I have none. Mike?
Have none.
Mark, any unfinished business?
Have none.
I'm not sure if it falls under old unfinished business or not, but Train Driver Drive, where we had the water main break, 2 months ago? Are we waiting for a park, a replacement park or something, or is there a plan to reclaim that? But it's still all beat up barriers around it, concrete laying around and stuff.
Okay. Check it out.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kelly, any unfinished business?
I think this would be under old business, and I just want board to be aware of it. Elena was served with a subpoena last week, I believe it was last week, originated from a law firm out of St. Louis to bring extensive records to Kansas City for deposition tomorrow morning, having to do with a class action lawsuit that was filed by several Missouri cities pending in St. Louis County. We were made aware of that ahead of time with the suggestion that our city, along with 38 other cities that were served with like subpoenas throughout the state of Missouri, file a motion for protective order with extensive suggestions. I was out of town until the middle of last week, and when that came in, but I was apprised of it ahead of time. And last week, we did prepare such a motion, but this is class action lawsuit pending in St. Louis. And it occurred to me that if I filed a motion to quash, I might have to go to St. Louis to argue that motion. And I really didn't like the sound of that. So we hustled around today, and Elena and I worked on this, and she thinks that she has all the records that are responsive. I contacted the attorney. We agreed that she can file an affidavit and send those records over the next week or 10 days to them, and that she would not need to appear in that deposition tomorrow morning. I think it's resolved as far as the city of Carl Junction is concerned. There were a few cities that filed that protective order. A lot of cities did not. I tried to see what Joplin and Carthage were doing. They also were served with the same subpoena. Couldn't reach anybody to explain what they were doing. So we did it our way. I think we're going to be done with it as soon as Elena comes up with those records about our case. This has to do with video service providers, and the class action lawsuit is an attempt to get Netflix, DirecTV, Dish TV to pay additional fees to communities in Missouri, like our cable company, media companies. And we're not a party to it, but we would benefit from it if they were successful. But it's one of those things that could take years to do and could evolve. And basically, we just kind of sidestepped this with our action today. I just want you to be aware that there's nothing to be done.
Anyone have any questions for the attorney? Elena's probably really glad we just appointed her. City clerk. Where do you go to resign? All right, unfinished business. Elena.
No, ma'am.
Crystal.
No, ma'am.
Steve.
Yes, ma'am. Two things. One of the in your packet is the Memorial Park splash pad presentation, and it's really cool. It's nice, it's big, it's neat. Fits into the patriotic theme, the color palette with everything else down there. It is quite large. It's 68 by 95, so it is big. And I say the mayor and I and Crystal, we wanted to make a statement with it that we have something really nice here. It would involve removing improvements down there at Memorial Park, the ball field, and fencing and the lighting would go away. There'd be some backfill and some work that would have to be done. The bathrooms would stay, and that storage building would stay, because that's where the pumps and the controls and the chlorine and the acid bath would all have to go in that room there. And it's a cement block building, so it's really secure. I say that, it's been a while since it's been broke into.
I was suspicious to ask that very question. Have we had any more problems with vandalism in that area?
We haven't had any problems for, on that building for probably 20 years.
Any with the memorial, the flag and all?
None with the only ones that we have problems with, and it's an ongoing, occasionally we'll get somebody to spray paint inside playground equipment, or they'll spray paint something on the pavilion, but that's it.
If something like this comes in, we put this in, any kind of precautions? I mean, is there any additional, or do we?
No, I talked to a couple of different people about that. I talked to Myrna, a provider, and they prefer splash pads because you don't have lifeguards, you don't have management and that type of thing down there. It's a very simple system as far as the chlorination and everything, which John is. He already does it for the pool, and it's a pretty simple system for
I would hope with the improvements we're making, we could maybe hardwire in some security
That's actually, the
cameras.
security was more what I was.
So that,
Hopefully we could hardwire some.
yes, absolutely,
They can run on
because,
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
I'll cover that in a little bit. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And it came in at $704,000.
That's one of the things we will look over in the meeting.
And the ARPA budget, well, we would look over them.
Do we need to, I mean, the neighborhood around there, is that something they get a say in?
Oh. As in a pole or something?
It's
to use the
already, it's
neighborhood?
already public use. The land's
Yeah, it's
deemed for
already-
public.
Yeah, it's public use, so it's, yeah.
So I know
And
sometimes-
we're taking some lighting out, so it won't be quite as obnoxious.
What if what I understand is the youth athletic is going to use it again for baseball.
There are teams practicing there when I drive by
So-
those days.
That's just what I've understood. A couple, talking to some people on the board. So I don't know what you have to do to smooth that over, but that's what I understand right now.
T-ball and stuff?
Baseball, some.
Well, and see, that was my initial concern, but then I was told, well, they hadn't used it for the past however many years.
I don't think they
because-
used it last year.
Yeah,
It's been 4 years, I think, since they've had sanctioned games there, but teams, especially travel ball teams, use it for practice. When the
I
league
know.
uses the Frank Dean for.
and it may be one of those, you have to look at the greater good, the best possible use for the land.
I know one time when we had the flood down there at Frank Dean, they couldn't play on the Little League or anything. They moved up to Memorial Park and they played up there.
Well, that's my question. There's, a little bit of space, kind of the northeast corner of Memorial Park there. Was there thought of putting this anywhere else besides having to remove the field?
Well, that northeast corner
Where our
has,
culvert is.
yeah, that's got water that runs down through there, that creek runs through there, so.
And honestly, maybe we can get somebody to attend the meeting. So it's a public meeting if they want to come to the meeting next week. The bad thing is if nobody's used it for like 4 years and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you can't do an improvement that would benefit all 9,000 residents because we
that
just,
was one
I
thing
understand
that
what they're wanting to do. but-
Colin, the representative from AFCO said they looked at our demographics and trying to figure out bather load so that they could get the appropriate chemical system in there. And he goes, with something this size, you're going to pull them from all over. This is going to be so popular. And everything that he has seen and done is, especially when you look at the fact that, there's 3,000 kids up here at the school, they will come and use it. It's the same way, and I talked to Carl Francis and the retired parks director at Webb City, and they said, we see kids from all over the place, out of town, wherever, they come to it. And Carl said that exact thing. He says, you'll have them from everywhere coming to use it.
And I think it should be noted that there's a difference between scheduling ball games at a facility and practicing at a facility.
Yep.
Not being used for 4 years is kind of misleading because it sounds to me like they've just not scheduled ball games at these places. They're practicing.
And even the practices were spotty. It was not, you think about the practices you and I had marked down there that, 2 or 3 times a week. It was not that way.
We drove by just to check it out. I was showing my wife, and it hasn't been used in a long time. You couldn't practice on it.
No.
To me, it's land sitting there that needs to be used in a different way.
I think this would be a good, my kids played there. I have sentimental ties to it. They used to practice everything else, but like you say, it's not so much. But we had the backstop down at Country Club Park. People could have smoothed that out and practiced down there even if they wanted. we had travel teams of practice down there over the years when they had the backstop before we took it, but there's options. I think we need to look at the best options for all of it and how many people will benefit from it.
The only other thing on there, and I wanted to note, I should have during my report, but you'll see on there, I talked a little bit about Quail's Nest and the stormwater down there. We've hit a brick wall. Two of the landowners are unwilling to either negotiate or even consider the offers that we have put out there. One of them flatly said no. So what's going to have to happen is I'm going to have to get with Kurt, and we're going to have to look at other options of how we can do it to get that stormwater out of Quail's Nest. This, of course, we were on option 2 already because the first option was turned down by one of the other landowners. Kind of puts us in a pickle. It's like we know something needs to be done down there. We got to do it. We tossed around condemnation and eminent domain. I do not recommend that at all. You end up paying huge amounts of money because you have to, there's lots of legal hurdles that you have to go through, and you end up paying market value for the property. So it's very expensive to do that, and it's intended to be hard anyway because of past abuses. They've tightened down on it. But I'm going to get with Kurt, and we'll see what we can work out, see if we can find something.
If I understand right, that we are not even trying to, we just need easement.
Correct.
So we cannot even get an easement.
They won't even give us an easement.
So I understand the condemnation and the eminent domain and things that you don't want to do because I don't agree with those as a general rule. But if all you are trying to do is get legal rights for an easement, are we going to end up in worse trouble down the road because we don't pursue that? Then we have all of these houses that we have serious damage or loss of value to property for people who bought in good faith because the city approved.
Since the board and staff are well aware of the problems, we have a duty to proceed with how we can correct the problems. And we will have to continue to work on it, because if we don't, and we know about the problem, that puts us in very poor standing if something were to happen liability-wise. So we have to continue to try to move forward in getting something done on it. We do not want to get into the case where we end up having to buy some homes because homes get flooded, and it's the
And not only that, we don't want to displace residents who
we
saved
don't want to
have the home that they like
Yeah,
in a neighborhood they like. I mean, we went down there
It's-
Friday and to drop off something to one of the residents down there, and there was water standing. And how long had it been since we really had any? But
this is a little bit different than some of the other areas in town, and the fact that that's not floodplain up there. It's not within FEMA or for a buyout program or anything like that. This is caused because of things that were done in the past by previous administrations ignoring an engineer's recommendation for what ought to be done. And now we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot because of that. And we're going to have to figure something out. What it looks like right now, I have no idea.
I would say that we definitely need to have Kurt working on it, but at some point we probably need to seek counsel on legal options.
Yeah.
Because we've got the money that we can actually address it. And
Yeah.
all we're asking is let us have an easement to access what we need to use. That's not an unreasonable request for something that would be put back in good condition. It's not gonna damage any property.
Not to change the subject, but this sounds eerily similar to Fall Creek. We know that there is a water issue and there's going to be an issue and we're aware of it. And there's current houses where it used to be underwater, and I just don't want to forget about that area as well. I feel like it sounds pretty similar to this area.
The only difference in that one, they've came in and deemed it is okay to build at a certain level. And I don't know if they're right.
That's part of it because of those houses down there. We had to make sure certain things happened that we've done. Those houses, finished floor elevation are above what the FEMA designated base flood elevation is.
How
We
long?
make sure that. Other ones that have some of they call it an A area, which is the closer you get to the creek and that flood zone into the creek, it changes priorities. And there's a few of those houses that are currently being built, and they have had to go through some fairly extensive engineering to make sure that they don't get flooded. The problem is, and the complaint I've always had with allowing that type of thing, is that you create a house that is in an island so that it still puts fire department personnel at risk. If it floods this house, they've still got to go out there in their boat to get people out of the house. I don't like that. I don't like that scenario, and I don't like that risk that it puts not only the people of the house, but also the fire department personnel. And so we're very careful with the guidelines that we follow for FEMA and for the floodplain for those houses down there.
How long has it been since that was reviewed in that area? Like since FEMA or anybody came in and reviewed the floodplain, and has there been, because where the creek is eroded and changed course,
It is, and what engineers are allowed to do is it's called a letter of map amendment. They can submit paperwork to FEMA where they have to prove the elevations, and that's happened on a bunch of the homes down there. But FEMA moved from the old paper maps. I've still got them in my cabinet in there to D-firms, which are digital, and they're updated probably every 5 years is when they do it.
I'm just wondering, I know that they approved the building plat, I know they approved the plat and everything that many years ago, but is there anything we can do, go back, like the developer, to make them, even the elevation of the streets and everything, rather than just the homes? Or at this point, if it's approved?
No, it's approved, and you can't go back and enforce a current standard on something that was approved 10 years ago. So they had to meet standards of 10 years ago, and that's the standards that they have to meet. But we can't enforce the current ones if they've changed on that. What we can do is make sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed for all of the information. Those people will all have flood insurance down there. Is it going to be a problem sooner or later? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. It will be.
Well, does anybody else have anything under unfinished business, since we're flooding and everything? Have I missed anybody on unfinished? If not, we'll go to new business. Let's start where we left Steve.
No.
Crystal? No. Elena, any new business?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Tully, any new business?
No.
Bob, new business? Gary?
No.
Rick?
No, ma'am.
Roger, any new business?
No.
I have none. Mike?
I have nothing.
Mark?
Nothing.
Jim, any new business?
Nope.
All right, so now, next on the agenda, we have a closed session on the agenda. This is per state statute 10.021, leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration thereof. This is going to require a motion and a second and a hand vote to go into closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
I'll second.
Motion by Rick,
Yes.
second by Mike Burns to go into closed session. Would the clerk please call the roll vote?
Paul McAfee,
Yes.
Gary Stubblefield,
Yes.
Rick Flynn,
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Madonna Allen.
Yes.
Mike Burns.
Yes.
Mark Satterley.
Yes.
Jen Goose.
Yes.
All right, we're in closed session. Are we going to stay in here?
We'll stay in here.
Okay, we will go into closed session. We will shut down the recording.